You all for coming. Sadly, there appear to be quite a few people who said they were coming. Hopefully nothing untoward has happened, and a few people who've dropped out. So we're looking a little bit light. It is a relatively informal day. Please just feel if you need to get up and empty, then the loos are directly over at the corridor. There will be some breaks during the day, so you'll be able to refill. You get it, refill, empty. And a very nice lunch will be served at lunchtime in our restaurant. So it's not the buffet thing. I'd like you to sit down and ruminate and discuss and collaborate. So hopefully you'll find this a really, really useful day. So the question is, why maths and English? And clearly a lot of us are sitting here delivering study programmes and finding that meeting condition of funding is a massive challenge. And at the moment, there is nothing to suggest that condition of funding and the forced resits are going away. So it is what it is. For some of you, I know that you're sitting there and you've had Ofsted in. So congratulations, Lily. A good Ofsted outcome. That's a secret, by the way. But some people are actually not in the fortunate position of going through. We won't be seeing Ofsted for a few years. Some of you have still got monitoring visits, and so we need to share the experiences and share the good practice. Talking about condition of funding, I certainly have been involved with talking to DFE through the AOC, and basically saying that this one-size policy does not fit every student. And I remain hopeful that the government will actually get in who have a pair and go, do you know what? Maybe that wasn't the right policy. Maybe it should be flexed. Now, I will put it to you. If that happened before the start of the next academic year, if somebody turned around and went, condition of funding does not have to be a forced GCSE resit, it should be the right maths and English qualification for the student, have you got a strategy ready to go? Would you know what you were going to do? And I would urge you to at least have it in the back of your mind. So we've already been discussing that and talking about the fact that actually if a student is on an applied general qualification, if they are coming in to enrol on a level 3 extended diploma, then probably a GCSE resit is the right qualification for them, unless they have a specific learning need. But if they're doing a technical qualification, would a functional skill offer more flexibility and be more appropriate in terms of the style of learning for that particular young person? So I'd ask you to talk about it and to think about it and continue to pressure MPs, government, whoever you can get hold of, to basically say the condition of funding policy is not the best. It's anything where a GCSE resit grade achievement rate is 20%. That's not good. Nobody can go pat on the back. We, as West Suffolk College, have maths which is at 32% and English which exceeds 50%. Now, if we're being told you've done really well for a GCSE resits for across the whole college, then actually we're deluding ourselves, because 50 odd percent as a GCSE A star to C resit achievement rate is not good. We need more ambition. We need the right qualifications for students. So think on that. Hopefully there are people in this room and you will begin to talk, and we have the collective answers amongst us. There will be things that are working for you that actually you could share with somebody else. It might work for them. And fundamentally, it is because we want to make a difference in the maths and English ability of our students. It isn't as in the old days where it's, here you go, have another qualification that accredits you for the skills that you've already got. We actually need to take them on a journey, move and improve their maths and English ability, so that they actually go out of our colleges and our provision, and they have got better in terms of those skills. I just wanted to make a point because for those of you that do follow me on social media, I'm always making a point. There have been no Ofsted outstanding FE colleges since February 2015, which funnily enough is just before the national achievement rates were published for GCSE A to C compulsory resits. I mean, does anybody spot a theme? And to be perfectly honest, Paul Joyce, who's Deputy Director for Ofsted for FE, he agrees that the policy isn't right, but we can't moan about it because this is the policy that we're having to deliver to. We have to do something about it and understand what it is that is not working when we are only getting very low GCSE A to C resits. So that is the key point I would like you to be thinking about throughout the day. There's going to be loads of others and hopefully some really cracking stuff for you to take back. But it seems unlikely the policy will change, but if you could change it, what would you do? Have you got a policy ready to go in your organisation? I spoke to some colleges only last week and they went, well, it's too late. It's too late to change it. You know, we're FE. We're agile. We move like the wind. Of course we can change it. We can change things in minutes. We don't need a lead-in of an academic year. If you have the option, know what you're going to do. Create the strategy and then you can actually start talking about it in your organisations. The key thing about today is that we participate and we collaborate. For those of you that joined us at the last time that we did this isn't about West Suffolk College. If you like, we are the hosts and we're delighted to have you. This is about you sharing your best practice, and I'm delighted today that there are a number of people from outside of the college who have agreed to contribute and to talk about some of the work that they do. So hopefully you will find this really stimulating. From the last time that we met, we took the work that you created and we have done two things. We've created a website called allaboutme.wsc.ac.uk. It is on the bottom of every piece of material that we've handed you, so don't lose it. Some of you, if you follow us on social media, I know that last time at the conference, Julia went for a tinkle and took a picture of the poster on the back of the loo door and tweeted it because it was basically reinforcing the importance of maths and English. You can download those posters that we've made, which are really aimed at students just to cajole them in terms of our whole college approach. Take the posters, print them, put them up, use them. If it's helpful, go for it. So there's lots of resources to download, including the slides from the previous conference, including some exemplars of things like the reports that we've developed that might just give you an idea about some of the things you might want in terms of progress and tracking, etc. And then, just as a bit of a sweetener, there's this nice little good practice guide that I hope you'll take away, which is just really your starter for 10, just to wet your whistle. And to be perfectly honest, it also means that we've got our good practice guide out, and it really reflects the combined brain power of the organisations that joined us at the last time that we met. I would ask that you do tweet throughout the day. It is hashtag WSCLOME, so it's leadership of maths and English, because I do believe that maths and English, it all begins with you as leaders and how you work. Oh, more slides.
What for you introduction?
Yeah.
Just,
Hey?
just look for it. Then go to the next one.
Because I thought we've got have you got the competition?
Yeah.
All right, okay. So please tweet, use that hashtag, and then it comes up on the tweet wall at the back.
There you go, some competition there. Can you do the competition?
Oh, yes, well you can. I'm going to hand over to the delightful Trevor. Trevor is our Director of Maths and English. and he, together with Debbie, who's over here, they manage all of the maths and English. Trevor takes more of a lead on the study programmes and Debbie on adult. And the other thing was just to make the point that we are actually going to video this and post it. So please, whatever you think of the Maths and English Conditioner Funding Policy, no expletives. Have a smashing day, and I hope you get loads out of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I have the unenviable job of following Lindsay. On your tables you will see that there is a quiz sheet, which is the news in 12 questions. Prior to lunchtime, if you can circle the answers that you think are correct, and then there's a box at the back there just underneath the Twitter feed, at the right back of the room. If you can pop your name on your entry, put your completed entry in that box, that would be absolutely fantastic. Winners, just like last time, will be decided over lunchtime. This time the caption competition will become our tiebreaker question. So please do not ignore the tiebreaker question. And so that will be the caption competition. So completed entries in the back.
You're going to tell people why you're leaving?
Oh, Ofsted.
I know, our hearts are bleeding.
Oh, God. Thank you.
I know, but this is the sector in which we live. So everybody, there's collaborative love. Sussex County Council.
I'm so looking forward to today as well. I really enjoyed the last one.
Where are you from or college?
Essex, adult community learning in Essex. So we didn't do very well last time. So this is our second. We've had a monitoring visit, and so this is the one we're going to be judged on now. So. Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you, Amanda. We'll be in touch. And good luck. Thank you.
Bye and good luck.
Yeah.
Bye everyone, thank you.
Okay, blimey, let's keep fingers crossed. So, just like previously, and as Lindsay's already indicated, we've got several guest speakers that are going to be joining throughout the sessions today, some internal, some external. I'm delighted to say that in a few minutes you'll hear from Piers Alexander. Piers is our GCSE English course director, and we'll talk to you practically around some of the strategies that we've developed and he uses on a day-to-day basis in the class. So the first of the presentations today is really focusing on our cross-college teaching and learning strategies. Okay, so you'll see within the guide that there's a whole section on quality of teaching and learning, and that includes our cross-college framework for teaching and learning. And from the previous conference, it's one of the aspects that we've been asked to talk about the most. So we're going to spend a few minutes this morning really covering that in much more detail. Again, there's some resources that we can share today, actually as part of the presentation, and then make available once you've all completed your feedback from today. You get an automated email that will open up the whole plethora of additional resources from the day. We'll then start to hear from Piers about how and what he uses on a day-to-day basis with the students, and really started from how we collaborate in terms of our schemes of work as an English team in this case, but the same applies for maths, and how we actually use our scheme of work and how the milestones really fit into a very thorough feedback process and the loop that actually creates for the students. And he's going to finish off by telling you about some of the really innovative things that he's done to really create some very powerful reflective moments for students, and how that's fed through into increased performance for the students he looks after. The other thing you'll notice is there are flip charts around the room. Each one of you as a table will be required to do some input. That's how we collected all of the good practice that went into the guide previously. So throughout the day there'll be some presentations where we'll stop and we'll pause, and we really want to collect the thoughts of the collective. So at that point, please feel free to make use of the whiteboards, and if you really need to, go and fill up and do whatever else you need to do. So, CSPAR. CSPAR is our cross-college approach to teaching and learning. What it does do, and what it really means, and what it gives us a really solid foundation of, is the same approach to teaching and learning is adopted throughout the whole college. This isn't an approach that applies just to maths and English teachers, or when you hear from Rachel, who looks after healthcare and early years, just to her particular cohort of students and particular staff groups, or anyone else in the room from West Suffolk College. It is an approach that really is very, very focused. Now, the C-SPAR comes from the, or the acronym C-SPAR comes from the way that the framework, the model is put together. So the C for connect, the S for share, the P for present, apply and recall and review. So there's, let me just pull this up for you. You had a preview of Bananarama then, Julia. It's important to say that the C-SPAR model, the actual framework, came from a piece of work in 2014 from the Learning Consortium, which Sue, I'm right in thinking, was an ETF-funded project. And it really brought together a whole range of learning theories to mesh together and to come together and to form a framework that works across the sector here, but in all learning organisations. The links that you will receive from today will take you directly to the C-SPAR model, so you'll be able to have a look and really absorb the framework in much, much more detail. So what we're going to do today is just touch on some of the theory behind what we do and actually show you some of the practical applications of C-SPAR actually in action. The fundamental thing with the framework that we use is that when students come into the class, they are expected to be work ready from the moment they walk through the door. So every single session will start with what's called a connect activity. And again, Rachel's going to talk a bit more about how she uses those connect activities in the next presentation. But for example, it could well be that in GCSE English classes, we start the lesson with the quiz of the week. It could well be in the maths classes we start with what's called a bread and butter activity to really build those fundamental skills within the students, start to get the students thinking. So, as I said before, really when the students walk in the door, they're not thinking, what do I do with my bag, where do I put everything? No, they're going straight down to their desk to start work. They know and expect that there's going to be work for them to actually get on with and to do. Then as we move through the cycle, we then start to build some structure to the lesson, so the students know exactly what's expected of them. They know how they're going to contribute to the lesson. They know as we move through to the present and the apply, we're going to be building on what now fits in with problem solving skills, and it's the perfect link to the new specification GCSE. The framework itself is really, really useful, but right at the centre of the framework really is, for me, the key aspect of the framework. It's all about making sure that students are very actively involved in the lessons that we actually teach them and have got a really important, significant part to play. One of the reasons we wanted to include the flip charts in the conferences both today and previously is because it models lots of the work that we do with our students on a day-to-day basis. In every maths and English room, there are whiteboards plastered around the room. And the reason for that is when we get to the point where we've presented some new ideas to the students, we've got them engaged, and our focus all the way through this is creating a learning environment that encourages that engagement. We actually get the students to apply the skills that they've just learned in a very different way to school. And again, our big focus all the way through, when we're talking about teaching and learning, particularly with regards to maths and English, the students have come here and have had potentially 11 years, sometimes 3 or 4 goes at sitting the GCSE Maths and English exam. We cannot do the same things that they've done at school. It has to be very different. It has to be very engaging. So as I said, once we presented some new ideas and get to the apply stage, what we very often do is use the whiteboards that are around the room so that students are actively engaged in working together in groups, in actually creating ideas in that kind of group environment, and where we actually encourage proper collaboration. So very often the students will work in groups and they'll move around from one group to another and use different kind of pens. So it's, again, from a teaching and learning point of view, it's very easy to see which group has contributed what, and it's very easy for that teacher in that classroom to actually get a sense of what the students have learned and what they haven't. And again, this comes back to what was referred to in the centre there as higher order thinking skills when the framework was created, but instead really creates that neat package that focuses very much on the problem solving skills that we all know in this room is the key focus of the new specification GCSE for both maths and English. One of the ways that we'll present information and start to get the students to apply, again focusing on doing things differently from what students have been through at school, is to give them information and actually ask them to tell us the correct answer. So Deb, would you mind just flipping that whiteboard down? So, in terms of a practical idea, something that again we do on a day-to-day basis that came out from a conference around 18 months ago with an organisation called Complete Mathematics, who you'll hear from later. We went to a workshop, and one of the theories that was divulged at that workshop, and something that we brought back and we said we use on a daily basis now, is the theory which we know as this is it, this is not it. So as I said before, we are really getting the students to think hopefully very differently to how they were taught at school. So very often we'll actually show them a problem and actually give them the answer, and we'll tell them that this is the right answer, and then we'll show them what's not the right answer. So a phrase that we'll often use when we're planning our lessons for both maths and English is, this is it. And if you hear that today from some of the maths teachers, this is what they're talking about. So again, going back to presenting and then getting the students to work on various different problems, we do get them to think in a very different way. It allows us again to come back to the centre and the focus, which is on student engagement. It's able to articulate why this is the right answer and this one isn't. But more importantly, are they able to use those skills and those problem-solving skills to solve other problems in exactly the same way? Can they collaborate to make sure that they get the correct answer and the methodology right every single time? Again, because we're focusing on that 1 year as a revision year, what we don't necessarily do is start off by teaching really difficult sums in maths or questions in English. We really will be looking to build up their confidence so that the fundamentals are there to allow us to move on. And again, this will touch on one of the presentations you'll hear later in terms of the mastery in both maths and English. So we don't automatically assume just because students can do things one way that we're going to give them massive, great big numbers and they can just get it. So again, it's all about for us building that confidence and building those fundamental skills and actually taking advantage of what the students know already. Significantly though, what we will do is take that information and make sure that when we know what the students have and haven't learned from that particular session, where those questions still remain, we make sure that when we start the next session, the Connect activity draws on that information and that whole cycle starts again. So the Connect activity, the piece of work that's waiting for that student when they walk through the door next time, will start to tick off all of the boxes from the questions or the activities that, as I said before, remain outstanding and where there's still some lingering misconceptions. Because that's how the framework works. It really builds one lesson on another and makes sure that we're covering off those misconceptions all the way through, and we're constantly building in that level of stretch and challenge so that when we get to the end of a teaching block or to the end of a term, the framework has allowed us to cover a whole plethora of work that the students are actually engaged with. So that's a little bit of a whistle-stop tour of CSPAR and how it works. You'll see from your packs, the slides contain some more of the theories, and as I said before, once you complete the feedback from today, that will open up a whole range of different resources, including the link to the CSPAR, so you can see the theory, and then it comes with some suggestions of very quick activities that you can use on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to hand over shortly to Piers, and he'll talk to you about how we take the framework and really start to model that with our lesson planning and student work. So I'm just going to freeze this thing and get you a bit ready. So I'll hand you over to Piers. Piers, as I said before, is our GCSE English course director. He'll talk you through how, as an organisation, we approach maths and English lesson planning and scheme of work planning. The focus all the while is to make sure that we're giving the students that different level of experience that we spoke about earlier, that the lesson plans fit within the CSPAR framework, and also develop strength of character. It's one of the key pillars for us as a college. We're not only looking to build academic qualities within our students, also build strength of character. So we're looking at ambition and resilience, and really making that point that when students come to study their GCSE maths and English, or indeed their functional skills, they do need a certain level of resilience. They need a certain level of ambition and belief. And as I said before, that really is the fundamental part of CSPAR and building up with those connect activities, etc. So I'll hand you over to Piers.
Okay, good morning, guys. The first thing that, excuse me, the first thing that I'm going to speak to you about today is, in the context of, as we can see, collaborative lesson planning. What we start off with as an English team, and indeed, as I believe the maths team do themselves, is a calendar for the year. And within that calendar, we have 4 milestone assessments. I believe we can see one of them. We have there. Yeah. The milestone assessments are pretty much vitally important to the success of the students, to measuring that success, and it enables us as a team to understand a great number of things about the students' abilities, about what help they may need, about any particular gaps in knowledge, and all sorts of other stuff, which I will go on to in a short while. If we take a look at the first 5 weeks there, and indeed you can see 2 weeks at the top marked 0, so the first couple of weeks that we've got, we always spend those making sure that students are in the right groups. Everybody starts to get to know each other. We start to get a good feel for the students' abilities, what they may be capable of, what they may need to work on. And that's done in quite a fun and fairly sort of relaxed and informal way for the students, but behind the scenes in that, we are still judging and making initial judgments on what the students may need and how the group dynamics can work, and all the while registers and everything else are being smoothed out so that we move into group 1. The point being there that we don't just lump them in with a lot of complicated work straight away, or just put them in wherever we see fit. As we get to the first week, and you'll notice a few in the green boxes, different teachers' names. Once we've got the milestone in place, we then come together as a team, and we really get a lot of time to really collaborate on the planning, with the aim to make sure that the students, when they reach the first milestone, they have the skills in place and the fundamental skills in place with which to make an attempt at that milestone. And I do think it's important at that stage for us to make sure that the students understand that that first milestone assessment, it is a full exam, but we do make sure that those students understand the benefit of that, and the fact that it's for us to gauge their learning and for them to get an understanding initially of the exam, and that they need not feel that they've somehow failed again straight away if they don't reach that C grade or level 4 benchmark. And it's something that over the course of the year the students have been getting more and more into. Again, this is something that I'll touch on in a few minutes, how I actually know that. But as you can see, yeah, regarding the lesson planning, the lesson planning is almost taken backwards from the milestone. So, and we work particularly with skills. As we are working with the new spec, we've got the assessment objectives, and each of those relates to a particular question. But without blinding the students with science, we just key that down into particularly what they need for the question, and then try and boil that down still into the very, very basic skills that they will need, so that through weeks 1 to 4, they've learned everything that they need in terms of a particular reading skill or an analytical skill in order to make that attempt at an initial milestone assessment. We've got the next part. If you would. Yeah, thank you. So once the calendar is complete and the lessons throughout the course of the year are complete, we then put together and put them in place on the scheme of work. Now, the scheme of work is hyperlinked to each particular date, which of course cross-references with each particular week. You know the teacher that's planned it, so you can go and talk to them if necessary. We have the assessment objectives in each of the boxes there, and when you click on the hyperlink, it will very easily, very simply take you directly to where all of the materials are. So that the idea being that anybody across college who needs it can find it very, very easily. Anything new that goes in, we know where it goes, we can access it very easily. Lesson plans as well all go in a very easily accessible, hyperlinked connection through to lesson 2. Everything is cross-referenced and corresponding back, so there's no sorting through files, where's this, exchanges of emails, etc., etc. And as Trevor's just demonstrated here, yeah, we've got for lesson 2 the full set of materials. As you can see as well, we do have a number of different things, and there are a couple of different lessons or different variations on lessons in there. So we don't have one lesson which is then put out across the college. These lessons, they change and they sort of morph to fit with the groups and to make sure that all the students and their learning is properly accounted for. It's not just a one-size-fits-all lesson that then goes across college. Anything else, of course, information-wise in terms of the lesson plan, it's added on. It's easy to find for everybody. Do you want me to do this one, Trevor? Or?
You can do this.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, sure thing. Here we have, going on from the milestone assessments. Now, the milestone assessments that we have for full exams, they're not just there for no reason at all, or just to make the students get a feel for what the exam would be, or something like that. We get a lot of very, very, very useful information from those, which in turn becomes very useful for the students themselves. Here we have our Google documents. So this keys in with a number of other things, but essentially what we have is, for example, if we can have a look here, we've got milestone number 3, paper 1, explorations in creative reading and writing. It's broken down by question 1, 2, 3, 4, question 5. The assessment objectives are along the top, which relate to the individual skills for each question. Some of them crossing over, as you can see. The green boxes are where the students have achieved the appropriate, and as I say appropriate in terms of their passing, the appropriate grade for them to be able to go through and ideally achieve a C. Where we've got it in red, it just means they've got a little extra way to go, which, as we always make sure we tell the students, is fine at each particular stage, and we can demonstrate the students' learning, and the students themselves have noticed this and commented on it. Also, something else that we can find, which, hang on, can I see it on there?
Yeah.
I'm looking for the national. Yeah, so we have the West Suffolk College average mark, broken down question by question, coming up for a total marks, and we've set the, regarding the total marks out of 80, we've set it pretty high. We're going for 48 and saying that 48 is equivalent to a C or a 4. Here, we have the AQA average, which Trevor will tell you a little bit more about, perhaps.
Yeah.
Trevor?
Yeah, so with regards to the milestone and the tracking, we do this for both maths and English. So as Piers has articulated already, we start the year and we really set the milestones in place around when the students will sit their GCSE exams. We're also making sure that the milestones happen therefore at kind of key dates. So milestones will generally be set for the week before half term. It gives the students time, gives the tutors time then to reflect and to mark those pieces of work, and to then make sure that the students are receiving the feedback the day that they come back after half term. The other thing that we've done, and the way that this was created, was off the back of AQA, who we use for both maths and English, off the back of their model for their mock analyzer. But the mock analyzer gives very individual feedback, and really what I needed and what the tutors needed was one sheet that gave an overview of the performance of the whole cohort. Really pleasingly, what we've been able to do then is set our own benchmarks, again as Peter said, really, really high. So I was talking out there to colleagues, we are delivering the new specification English. The biggest issue that we all face is we do not know what that grade boundary is. We've set it really high at 60%. Fingers crossed, we're way over ambitious for that, but nobody would expect anything less from us here at West Suffolk. So we're setting really high aspirations for our students, so that they're going into the exam knowing that they need to put in maximum effort. The analysis has also been fantastic because it's allowed us to gauge where our student cohort is against the AQA national average. Now the AQA national average has been supplied by the National Director of Curriculum from AQA, based on a survey of 30,000 Year 11 school students. So we was really expecting the school cohort to be way above where we are, first year of teaching, whereas obviously they've had 2, in some cases 3 years of build up to this. Pleasingly, we're across the 2 papers around about 3 marks behind where the school cohorts are. So we're touching wood fiercely and hoping that that sets us in good stead for next year. Again, as Piers has quite rightly said, the analysis is very quick, down and dirty when it's on the Google document. It allows us to shape lesson plans as we go from one term into another. It allows us to really model and make sure we're focusing on the right topics when it comes to half-term revision studies. But I'll let Piers tell you how else we use the data.
Yeah, excellent. So, as we've seen, we can use this to model progress and to understand where the students are individually, but also across the entire college. So we can look at it and we can very, very precisely break down, okay, everybody is having trouble with paper 2 question 4. And then as a team we get together, we try to understand why that is, we try to understand what we need to do in order to improve that. And then as the milestones go by, we see the marks getting higher and higher for each one. One of the other things that comes out of there is this, which is our milestone assessment SMART target sheet, which the students then sit down with the tutor, which I'll explain to you in a little more detail. We go through it and the student will then come up with their own SMART target. But if I could give you a bit more detail on that. So as we can see, it's broken down by question. Everything in the 2 papers is essentially very, very formulaic. There's a certain set of skills that the students will need to master so that they can, whatever text is put in front of them, they can perform the same set of steps and produce a quality piece of work. And these are broken down into the assessment objectives, which we have here for each question. Again, broken down by question so that it's much more friendly for the students. The maximum mark for each question, the student's mark for each question, the mark out of 80, and then we have actually, we do have 3 particular targets that we do there. But how this works is, after the milestone assessment, we have a lesson where collaborative work is set for the students. They get on with that, while we, in the classroom, individually spend, and if I speak for myself here, it ends up being about 10 minutes with each student, but because of our class sizes, it's very comfortable and very manageable to do that, and we get a whole class done in one session. And the students will sit down, we will go through their paper, we will check their understanding of how each question went, the comments that have been written after each question, the mark, etc., etc. They will work through that and they will come up with their own SMART targets. Once those SMART targets have been set by the student, we then go on to ProMonitor. Now, in case anybody's sitting there thinking about admin, the Google document that we just looked at with the red and green boxes, it's incredibly functional. It's very, very functional. It's very easy to use. It's really quick. And you can have any number of members of staff actually working on it at different places on the college, at home, wherever, at any one time. That then transfers automatically to our ProMonitor system, which is then where the SMART targets get set, and we put those in. This example that we have here is a genuine SMART target set by one of our students. And as we can see, we tried to keep it very, very simple. I mean, by definition, it's a SMART target, but we tried to keep it incredibly simple and just very manageable for the students, so that the next milestone assessment, they can really see and understand, not just see, but understand the progress that they've made, and in turn, the progress that they need to make in order to achieve. Just sort of moving back to this just for a moment, I have found that even with students who aren't particularly the most engaged in the classroom, somehow that just changes, and when we do the feedback sessions, they suddenly become this different student and they take it very, very, very seriously. I found it's really, really worked and been very helpful throughout the year. But yeah, we get the SMART targets on, students will then work towards those for the next milestone assessment, and then we build as we go and we measure success as we go. Was there?
So,
There was.
What would be really fantastic now, if we can ask for your help and assistance in the same way as we did with the previous conference, which led to the production of the Good Practice Guide. What we'd really like to do is to for you guys to work on your tables and start to collect, it says 10 minutes, we're not going to have quite that long, start to collect some of the best practice that you are implementing right now within your organisations linked to teaching and learning, particularly of maths and English, and particularly if you can start to think both from a maths and English point of view and also what your vocational teams are doing. I'll put the stopwatch on, or the countdown timer on, so it won't be the whole 10 minutes, but again, if you can start to think on that and use the whiteboards for me, that would be fantastic. If anybody does need a pit stop or fill up, now would be the appropriate time to do that too. Yeah.